Welcome back to the Paladins Pro Circuit. Finch and Kresnik here to take you to North America for our final set of the day. And Kresnik, I'm expecting this to be a pretty good set between Flashpoint and Pickled Pepper. I think Flashpoint, a squad, hopefully our Paladins fans should be plenty familiar with. But this Pickled Pepper team, or Pickled Pepper team rather, tell us a little bit about some of these former console guys.
Yeah, I mean, Pickled Pepper, they went through the relegations. They were the top team, I believe, undefeated by the end of the relegation bracket, even against those former PPC teams that were down there to compete with them for that space. Legacy, Emmett Payne, Feel, a.k.a. Shu from Elevate in the past, Skeppy and Wonderful. It's a star-studded team when you look at the PCL, and I think the way that they've been performing in general and shifting the meta around what they've been doing with some of these picks and scrims from what I've been hearing, I think it shows they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as this phase moves on.
I'm thinking so too. Sanguine not the only one making good use of some formal console stars, I don't think anymore. Certainly Pickled Pepper doing that same thing here now. They're going to have a great test in Flashpoint, who have struggled here a little bit 0-1 to start with, but you know, you'd think a team with this much talent probably not too far from riding the ship. It'll be Jaguar Falls that we go to first. Some fairly standard bands, it looks like, down there with Bazaar, Shattered Desert, Warders Gate, and Fish Market. So here in Jag Falls, what are you expecting from this first match, Chris?
I'm expecting some flat ground characters. I would actually expect, I've seen, and this is just because I've been playing a lot of Ranked recently, Legacy is just playing Torvald. He's just playing Torvald in Ranked, and I would fully expect to see it here today, just running it as this kind of double support supplement to a pocket strategy, and that might be why they're getting rid of this Genos, because I think Genos pairs super, super well with that Torvald. When you get that damage boost, you get that extra sustain from him. I think it's a great combination, and interesting by Pickled Pepper getting rid of both the archers effectively from them. Well, Flashpoint go for the pocket supports instead.
Exactly. Genos and Corvos got to be considered two of the strongest supports right now, so get those out of there. And then we saw Shaolin not picked up or banned, I don't think, at all in Europe to start the day, but then valued again in Brazil, and then obviously here in North America as well, as that's banned away. And it'll be the Vivian first pick. The Victor is still out there as sort of thought of as that other, you know, kind of match up to the Vivian. You know, you want at least one of those two. So I don't think Flashpoint feeling too bad as they grab this Grover right off the bat.
I mean, the thing is, though, on this map, Vivian, I feel like, is so good against Victor even. I mentioned it earlier in the last set. If a Victor gets pressured by flanks, he really doesn't have an answer on these close corners on Jaguar Falls. Flanks can do the same to Vivian if she's not protected enough, and Grover is hoping to do that, I would say, on that side. Androxus, we've seen how much he can get away with. If he has a decent aggressive off-tank to go with him, this Andro could pose a big problem for Pickled Pepper.
Yeah, Flashpoint only need to do half of what Gervin was able to do with this Andro back in that Brazil set. So, yeah, I imagine certainly some high end to what this Andro can do. And Nara going to be picked up as that point tank here for Pickled Pepper. And that was something that we saw, at least over in Europe, was that the team that was trying to run that solo tank was struggling a lot more. Do you expect we're going to see that same thing here in North America, where there's going to be sort of a double front line happening a lot? Or will they be able to get more success out of that single tank here?
I think we're going to see a mix of both depending on the map. I think that we're in a point where you can run either. I expect Flashpoint to potentially have two here with that ROM. Soul Tank ROM can work, but I feel like I wouldn't want it with Grover if we're going single support. If they get a second support, then it could work. They could use that extra sustain, just burst through, use that ROM, kind of running it down to make that space in ROM. We'll be able to make room for that Andro, and actually, they could stick with it. Double flanker and ROM. If he is your only tank, if you just all follow up on him, 5-man super aggro death ball, that comp can work. But it's going to have a lot of damage to have to break through with that Vic Viv.
Yeah, you are running into the ADS crew, aren't you, here between Vivian and Victor? Going to be tough to get past that. And, of course, Legacy playing the Torvald. That's why we got Krez here. He saw that coming from a mile away. Between the Torvald, the Inara, the Victor, and the Vivian, I mean, whoever they're getting to sustain this squad up should have a job to do, because they've got plenty of damage and frontline.
They have the Torvald to help with it, though. Torvald, I don't, if everyone in chat, don't look at Torvald as a tank. They're not picking Torvald to be a tank. They're picking Torvald to be a second support. He's putting those bubbles. He's giving them the healing with that. I'd say ammo regen, but giving Vivian like 6 bullets doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They're just going to have to be really careful with all these flankers. Triple flanker solo tank ROM. They're just going to try to run them down. This Damba, I think, you're right, though. He has a lot of pressure on him. If any of these flankers target him and he's alone, or if they try to isolate one person, Damba alone can't keep him up. Torvin, Legacy, and the Damba have to work together.
I would not be surprised if we see some form of death ball happening here from Flashpoint with this Grover to provide all that healing. And then it even allows for even maybe 1 or 2 members to peel off a little bit with that draft and then find another way to move in. But we're going to be moving into the very first map here in what I expect will be a contested set. It's Jack Balls to start things off here, Kresnik. And as we said, we know there's going to be a lot of pressure here on this Dom, but how do you expect them to line up to try and keep you protected?
I think they're going to have a line with the tanks, maybe play inside a room, but they could get flanked very easily. I think maybe hold on one side flat across 2 openings, so maybe play mid and by the statue side. As soon as they push you, you can disengage and fight one side specifically. Bubble your Vivian, give her the speed on top of the 30% speed she already has all the time, and then just kill a side, and then you can look at the others. Just to point out these role swaps here, Fisheko is still playing DPS, but Vex on the Lex and Jalen on support. His old role from the Sanguine days, he's back to it, and we'll see how he can perform at the highest level.
Going to be interesting to keep our eye on how Flashpoint choose to move. No surprise, the squad with the Inara are the ones building up percent early, but Emit has already found a double kill to start this fight off. Not bad, and the Andro can't afford to go to the sky. I know these flankers are strong, Krez, but how can they afford to use their mobility if there's a Victor and a Vivian controlling the skies?
They all stacked one side. I mean, they all went Jag to look for a place to dive from, and Pickled Pepper said, oh, are they just... Do I need to look anywhere else? No, I don't. They just ran it down and wiped him out. And they're going to be able to keep pushing too. Torv using his tankiness just to buy a little bit of space, and this Vivian will never have to stop shooting.
Well, they're going to see if they can find a couple kills here. They get rid of Emmet, that's nice, but Skeppy's there for the follow-back trade, but this is starting to favor Flashpoint. They've gotten the 3-for-1, and I don't think that if you're Pickled Pepper, you take this too hard. This is going to allow Flashpoint to set up in a position to get this aggressive zone established now, Krez, but this mid-fight going Pickled Pepper's way, I wonder if we might see a lot more of that before we see less.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if Pickled Pepper keep reacting that quickly to what Flashpoint is doing, I don't know when they can ever find an opening. They saw they were on the side, and literally these sort of immobile characters, and Nora, Torvald, Victor, just ran them down immediately. They had this great reaction time as a team, and that's going to keep happening for sure.
Well, the aggressive flank gets bunker busted there a little bit by the Victor. Skeppy finds the double to break through. Legacy gets the 3rd kill there as T-Mac falls. They do lose Emit, who falls on that Vivian, but everybody else has broken through. So finally, Pickled Pepper can start to get a little bit of work on this offense, get this payload moving, and try and break through some of these next few choke points for Flashpoint, because they were showing their aggressive zone is strong.
And this Vivian's already back, too, even though dying a little bit earlier. Already ready to move. It's going to be tough, I think, for Flashpoint to break through. Like, they have to keep doing this dive onto the Vivian, but Torvald and Damba are staring at her. How do you take her down without throwing away so many bodies?
It's exactly as you said. That shielding coming through clutch, isn't it? There is no viable dive target for Flashpoint, it feels like right now, because Pickled Pepper are making such a strong wall for them, and then when they do pick a target, the shielding, the support, the healing is all there. Now they've already made it around this final choke point. Pickled Pepper have the Inara pushed forward to try and control a little bit of space, and Flashpoint are struggling to even move outside of their spawn.
God, I guess all the lost TP on Torvald was worth it, because it seems to be working for Flashpoint. For Pickled Pepper right now, holding here. Look at this Hyper Beam! They're all stuck in the corner, but no one follows up at all. They just burn down Legacy.
And this Vivian has been the target through a lot of this aggression from Flashpoint. The shielding has been strong, but occasionally they're able to make their way through and find that kill. Finally, T-Mac ends up falling. Emit's back on his way back out, so this is not over for Pickled Pepper. But if they get the win, it's going to have to happen during their overtime. The Inara a bit on her own over towards the white, but that's drawing a ton of attention. Pickled Pepper should be able to find the Vivian touch here for Emit as he makes his way back through. Recognize he's got a little bit of trouble. The Zen heads back towards the back line, but so far Emit is comfortable. Up with the accursed arm, though, goes this Androxus. Good fire coming down from the top as Lin Sanity does get 1 kill, but Skeppy finds the other, and the payload is still right outside the front door. Skeppy comes right behind his Inara to put out the double kill, takes care of Lin and Dosa, make it a triple as he gets Vex as well. Of course, you drop some Emits as they get the successful conversion.
Oh, the super late fear onto Jalen is brutal. The fear is just about to go out. Jalen thinks it's safe. He touches it, and he gets headshot from behind as he does the fear animation away. Perfect timing by Skeppy to refight when he did. And then Predator 5, even after a 15% nerf at the highest level, it's still working out. I mean, I was looking at his health bar when that Realm was fighting him, and it was literally unmoving. It was just going from 300 to 350 the whole time. And Realm Cauterized 1 doesn't do enough damage at all to get through that lifesteal. especially with a life rip buy to start, that doesn't really diminish that hard that quickly. He's practically back to pre-nerf levels already.
Skeppy 13-1-5, caught full, stacked, and ready to roll. I haven't done as much Paladins as you guys have, but I think if your Victors rocking a KDA like that, you're going to win a lot of your games. As 3 members pinned down on Waterfall's side, as once again, the flank is able to work for Flashpoint. This time, Vex comes to the backside and is able to take care of Emit, but Wonderful gets the return. But Vex now with the double, able to find 2 different kills here on this Lex to open things up a bit more. But the percent, again, still heavily favoring Pickled. If they can't deal with this Inara, then I don't know how much the flankers matter.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. The Law getting walled off. He had to do it just 1 second earlier, trust in his teammates' damage, but he didn't. He didn't trust in his teammates' damage. Now they're stuck on the side with the Inara moving to the point, and I don't know if they can find a kill. It's all on this Zin, and they do get the opening.
Able to take care of Skeppy, but Emit gets the return kill as Fish Echo is the one that falls. He has to have his life traded out, and I don't think they recognize the Lex in the back just pumping damage into the Torval, but he barely lives. The Inara continues to stand on the point in Krez. This has kind of been my central point this whole time. They've got the damage. They can kill the Vivian, sure, but I don't know whose job it is to take care of Wonderful.
I don't know who they can have to kill Wonderful. I think you just have to win the fight so fast that you can then turn and burn and have it not matter. But how do you do that into a Damba and a Torvald? There's just so much sustain in the early game. Not getting a single mid-fight cap means you're not getting those 300 bonus credits every time. They're just outpacing so hard, and you can see they want to outpace in aggression as well. Running them down, they're all stuck in the corner waiting for this barrage.
And now this barrage has them stepping back, able to get one decent shot off with it. There is Skeppy, but now he's under some pressure. Fish Echo makes the way up there, but the rest of the squad made it work. Wonderful gets dosed up. Skeppy, before he died, was able to get the Andro, but Vex, as he's done all game, steps forward to get the trade. Now Legacy keeping the Inara healthy, trying to buy some time, while the damage respawns and rejoins. They've still got Flashpoint pinned back, even without a lot of damage dealers. Mostly just the Vivian was carrying that load there for them, but Flashpoint has done enough to push them back out, Prez, and Pickled Pepper have to reset.
I think the Torvald-Vivian pairing on the side was exactly what they needed, because yes, there was only one Vivian locking them down, but what happens if they send the Zin into the Vivian? Torvald just nullifies him, and then he can't use any of his cooldowns, and he dies immediately. Like the null on the ROM, but Hyper Beam, you can't do that, you're not CC immune, and he just gives his life away.
He does. That was great work there by Dosips to catch up, to allow T-Mac to find the double kill. Insanity gets another. That finally shuts down Wonderful, but still, Pickled Pepper were able to get so far forward so quickly, Krez, that there's still 50 seconds left for Pickled Pepper to work with on trying to find this retake, but now Flashpoint are entrenched in this aggressive zone. That's going to make life much harder for Pickled Pepper, but they're starting to fall back. Wonderful's doing enough to bunker bust this a bit and break them out. There's the seismic crash, and that shall stun Dosips. That means the ROM ends up falling. They lose. Wonderful forward. They trade their frontliners, but Emit has a plenty of damage. They can keep pushing through to find the secondary kill. Now these flankers are left without a frontline.
And they trade tank for tank, but the sustain is there for Pickled Pepper, but all it does is make that fight go a little bit longer because they can't finish any of those kills. I think T-Mac on the Andro actually living on the right side was huge for them. Unfortunately, that great route from Jalen slowing them down right now. Look at this death ball on the cart. I was right about them having to play on top of each other, but they need to watch these angles. The nade body blocked. It saves Jalen for another second.
And Skeppy's able to get that shot onto the Grover. That was critical. They also got the touch coming through from Wonderful as well on this Inara. So the overtime is ticking, and Skeppy going for the flank. Finds the Androxus. Finds another one in the low health Fish Echo. This is huge from Skeppy to have been able to find this wraparound play. And now with the Inara already there, the payload moving just barely. Dosips makes it back out of the line of sight so he can keep standing as well. But the barrage is back up. That crushes Dosips even on top of the payload. But can they find the conversion even with committing that ultimate? That was the only one they had. Pickled Pepper able to push it through, and 4-0 over Flashpoint. Krez, I did not expect that.
That last fight, once it started, I think there was no stopping it. As soon as that ROM died, they spent the Whirlwind to heal him back up. There's 2 flankers on point. There's a Victor and a Vivian, uncontested behind the cart. There's no way you're living through that amount of damage. You can't even dive onto them. I'm actually shocked that Skeppy ended up doing better than Emit, but I think that Flashpoint thought the same thing I did. Oh, it's Victor on Jag. Vivian's the bigger threat. Focus her down. But
right.
when no one's looking at the victor, he can get away with whatever he wants.
I don't. It kind of reminds me of how Voldemort picked between Neville and Harry. I think that they picked for Skeppy to be the problem because they went for Vivian. Whichever one they didn't focus was going to be the one popping off. I'm not so sure. The barrage got a ton of value there as well, though, Krez. So I'm with you, and maybe the victor being the one that was a big issue. 98,000 damage here in this game, and it was stuff like this when they got stacked up. The barrage got too much value.
And it was a quick one too to get 98,000 damage in a 4-0. Even if some of the timers ran down. That's not a long amount of time to get all that damage going, especially with a Vivian doing the same as well, and not even great health bars on them, but definitely farming the ROM. You can see his health bar, or at least the numbers over the replay little icon in the corner there. It's just so hard to kill him. Combine the healing from a Torb, the shielding with the Torb, to the lifesteal just latently in his kit. They just could not deal with him no matter how many people they threw at him.
And, you know, this is why it's so important for me to check in with you and Gore and stuff before we come into these sets, because I was coming in riding high on Flashpoint, but you all reminded me of the strength of this Pickled Pepper roster. I think we saw it just now on this Jack Falls map. Maybe a little bit of that was this picks and bans where they were able to get Anara, Victor, and Vivian. That is so much frontline presence, and this Torbolt was there to sort of accentuate all that, but most of it was execution.
Yeah, I think Pickled Pepper just had the teamwork to catch what Flashpoint were doing. Flashpoint, let's say Pickled Pepper weren't playing as together, right? That's a chaos composition that Flashpoint draft. They can just immediately dive on anybody who's alone, but they played closely together. They pounced on anybody who they needed to. Anyone who was isolated on the side of Pickled Pepper and never gave them really a chance outside of when the fights kind of broke down. We want to go to Brightmarsh, a really similar map. Flashpoint want to take them there even after kind of taking an L on another flat map with tight choke points.
That's a good point. Flashpoint were the team that I think would have rather had that fight be a bit more spread out, that wanted to try and see if they could get those flankers into open space and win a lot of their ones, but they weren't afforded that opportunity. If they sent a flanker on their own, the Torvald suddenly meant that the Vivian was likely going to win that matchup, or at least leave them isolated out there too long for them to find a return kill. So now that we move on to Brightmarsh, here, I mean, a lot of the times you could end up in that same scenario. Do you expect any changes here, Krez, in the way the picks and bans are going to look?
I mean, we can already see one. Vivian, gone. Just get rid of her. Don't have to
it's
deal
a good
with it. Yeah, Cassie not being banned too is surprising. I think getting rid of Corvus, I guess you don't want to give them the only pocket healer left. Maybe force Flashpoint onto another support, maybe like Grover, like they played last game, or on a Damba, but they prioritized this flank presence instead. I don't think T-Mac did poorly last game. I just thought, how are you going to kill anything with that? You know, you have these three flankers. He's not able to be the one who commits the hardest. Lex has to go in. Zin has to go in. Andro played safe, did his damage, and I think did a good enough job to pick up again. You can go over those roofs, you can get into the back line, and there's ways that you can engage and start fights with Anthropsis.
Well, I would be a bit worried about giving Wonderful this Anara pick again, and Pickled Pepper recognized its value, grabbing it right away. So now the question becomes, what do they pair alongside it? And with that Vivian off the board already, you grab this Victor. This is sort of the core of the combo that worked so well for them back in map number 1. And Pickled Pepper say, prove you can beat it here in map 2.
I just want to mention, and I know that there hasn't been a lot of games, but Victor has a 58% pick rate and a 100% win rate. It hasn't been very many. This is specifically for North America. There hasn't been a ton of maps played, but I think that goes to show how strong a Victor can be if you don't have really the way to answer it. I think Andrew's a decent way to do it, and Torv, paired with them, Flashpoint, take it away. They don't want that double sustain tank on the side of Pickled Pepper again, but how much experience do Flashpoint have playing with it?
Krez, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm not even so sure that this is functioning as a pick so much as it is functioning as a third ban for Flashpoint right now, just trying to keep this out of Pickled Pepper's hands. But that's sort of the thing. I mean, even if maybe they don't have that 100% comfort with it, I think it was core enough to that strategy they were working last game that taking it away has a ton of value.
I agree, and I'm excited to see the Lex being picked up against it. One thing that I've heard is that Discovery Lex on these flat maps can be pretty strong with the recent changes to it. The mark is now on a 6-second rotating timer, and if you get the right person, if you get lucky on the slot machine that is the Retribution on Lex, you can get 50% lifesteal on the target that you need to have it on. Put that on a tank, dive them. How are they killing you at the start of the game? They're just not. They gotta hope that Torv is enough to keep him alive through that Lex, because otherwise he's going to out-sustain you.
Well, Flashpoint pick up this Fernando, and if the Torvald is played similarly to how we saw back on Jag Falls, then the Fernando is largely going to be handling those tank duties kind of by himself. They do have the Cassie paired alongside it to provide plenty of that backline damage, though. They'll need Damba to sort of amplify that sustain that's going to be coming out from the shielding from Torvald there as well. But now with this con for Pickled Pepper, they have got quite the scary composition locked in.
Yeah, I like the extra bit of hit scan pressure. Vortex Grip not as strong anymore, but maybe they still run it. Maybe they do it just to stop the Androxus or at least just cancel the Nando shield. Potential value there, but I think Flashpoint could just poke him out. Keep Nando away from the con, and you might be able to win the poke war.
Maybe that'll be the idea. Wear them down slowly here from Flashpoint and Pickled Pepper. Perhaps surprisingly, map 1 goes handily over to Pickled Pepper, so I think Flashpoint here on Bright Marsh have a little bit to prove. Remember, they came into this 0-1, I believe, as well, so they need to get some momentum going for an otherwise strong roster. Here on Bright Marsh, could this potentially be the answer here, Kresnik? We're about to get a little bit more information, though, into exactly how this game's going to break down.
Yeah, and I like seeing Aegis Nando. I think he's actually a strong point tank, or at least for a pocket tank. Someone tries to dive Cassie, put a Nando in the way, and if it's not Lex, if it's Victor, Cassie wins that every time, assuming you hit the shots, because he has all that shield to burn through. And like I said, fast-firing Lex. We're going to see it again, potentially with this Discovery damage boost, plus that lifesteal. Doesn't have the mark in Fasheko, but doesn't need it for now. But they lose the other side of the map. They lose, Grover goes down immediately.
Yeah, T-Mac able to get that early pick. They needed that one, especially with their Cassie under pressure of the opposite side. But even still, Pickled Pepper, again, with this Inara, are the ones building up that percentage first. Fish Echo does eventually end up falling to Legacy, who was one of the ones chasing him out. T-Mac in the duel up against the Lex, but loses when Skeppy comes in to provide some additional support. It's 51% now on that midpoint for Pickled Pepper, and that's 3 quick ones coming in for the red side team. They've got complete mid control, and I think Flashpoint might have already lost this mid fight.
That was a rough position to be caught in as a Torvald. Low ground with a Lex shooting above you, and the only way out is close to him, so tough from that. And Pickled Pepper, I like how their tanks, I feel like they're just soaking so much aggro. They lost the Grover immediately to the Andro, yes, but they just had the rest of the map on lock. And whatever T-Mac didn't end up mattering, and they're even following up on these roots in complete stalemates.
Yeah, Fish Echo got CC'd, as you mentioned, they're out in the open, and that is easy for Skeppy. Actual gun range type stuff there for him on this Victor. And look how much they've already gotten this payload to roll. The barrage being used to try and take care of this tank early. We saw that earlier in our set in Europe. Not fully committed, though. The barrage should be back before too long for Pickled Pepper as Emit gets yet another kill. And they're continuing to roll. The Damba isolated out in the middle in front of everyone, Kresnik, and that's another pick.
Jalen threw his body on the card. They know they're not going to win this fight after that first pick, but what you have to do when you're holding on defense here is you have to fight the cart at this corner. Jalen, I promise you, not inting. He was just contesting the cart so they have a chance to have a second fight. He's alive now. He'll be able to heal his Andro, eventually contest this, and here comes the Cassie as well, but a DPS has to go on. The tanks died a little bit too late, and now because of that, a tank had to go first. They don't have a chance to hold it.
You're right. I mean, if you're going to have, the idea of putting the bodies on there to stop the payload moving, then someone has to complete that, so to speak, by coming out again and at least forcing us into getting that tank back out, but no one steps up to do it.
Yeah, I think the tank had to go first for Jalen, but Jalen was the one who, I guess, made that executive decision to keep that cart contested, and low deaths on the side of Pickled Pepper. Only Emit and Field dies, Field being the one to go down to that initial pick, as we saw. Itemization, too, these roots, I think, are going to get so much value, at least for this next round. If Flashpoint don't win this mid, they need these bonus credits to not get annihilated by these deep roots. We've seen how quickly Pickled Pepper follow up on it, whether it's Lex coming in from the side or Skeppy just connecting every single headshot if you're not moving.
And remember, Field got picked first at the start of that last mid fight, and I don't think Pickled Pepper cared about it at all. They did a great job keeping that Cassie out of the fight. I'll be interested to see if they go there again. So far, though, Nando getting the worst of this mid trade as he's taking quite a bit of damage. The Inara holding on to it, and that has been the problem so far. It's a 2-for-1, though, in favor of Flashpoint. They've taken care of Emit and Legacy. T-Mac, though, trades. As long as Skeppy is still standing on this Victor, then I don't think Pickled Pepper are worried at all. They push back the Nando, and the Inara continues to hold mid.
Yeah, he can come back in, but the shield against the Victor sitting there for free won't last that long. Wait a minute, actually, Inara left for a second, dreads her, but it gets already countered by the Whirlwind.
It is. Feel is the one that drops the ultimate so they can keep this fight going. Legacy takes care of Dosip, so that is it for the Nando and his hopes of keeping this mid-fight alive. But Torvald steps out, but the Lex was there waiting. Emid gets the first kill. Legacy gets a second as they take care of Jaylin. And am I the only one completely floored here, Kresnik? It's been 3 in a row here unanswered.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing how they played that Lex. A bit pain on the side against this Torvald specifically. Lex Ultimate doesn't really give you a lot of value most of the time. Maybe you destroy a Dome Shield with it because it has that ability to instant destroy shields. Maybe you execute an Inara through damage reduction. But it kills you whatever your max health is, not counting shields. If you bubble someone with a Torvald to save, Tor bubble to save them, and Lex ults, they're just dead. Same with the Torv himself, so recharge won't save you if a Lex is wired in, and you can see all these headshots ringing out one after one. Emmet Payne is wired in, keeping them locked out. And Flashpoint, I don't know what they could possibly even spend here to keep this held. Hyper Beam? Where are they going to knock them back? 2 feet away to get off the cart and then walk right back on? I don't think they even have a chance to hold this.
It looks difficult, doesn't it? It looks bleak for Flashpoint here at this point as Pickled Pepper continue their aggression moving in. Payload as close as it can be, and no one even able to land for a touch. You can see the Fernando in the back kept completely zoned out, and it's Pickled Pepper that find the 4-0 here on Bright Marsh. Between that and Jag Falls, this hasn't even been a particularly competitive set.
Yeah, maybe you don't pick the flat map again, is what I'm thinking. Bright Marsh and Jagger, they're similar. They have minor differences, but they're similar in so many ways that if you don't win that rotation game, the map, if you're losing map control a lot of the time, you can't go to the same map. Maybe at least throw an Ice Mines in there just to buy a little bit of time and give you a chance to reset. But Fisheko and T-Mac, they only got the only 4 kills on their team, while Skeppy racked up 2.5 times that on Victor, 10-0.
Yeah, and if Flashpoint were sort of coin flipping 50-50 between the Vivian and the Victor in that ban, I think now they've got a pretty good idea that it needs to be this Victor, right? I mean, Skeppy has looked nasty on it so far this set. I mean, even back in Jag Falls, when we thought maybe the Vivian was just the one they pressured more out, I think that we might just be seeing now over this 2-game data point that Skeppy's a monster on this Victor. You got to take it from him.
I mean, any long-time controller DPS is going to be insane on this Victor, but we've seen Skeppy play. We've seen Skeppy play so many different characters across time. Now that he's able to play a comfort pick like this, play this Victor, a character that is so hard to pressure when he gets the lifesteal locked on, I think Skeppy's just proving that he's just a great player. It doesn't matter what you throw at him. He's showing up on the Victor now, but I have a feeling we're going to see a variety of him playing different things over time. We've seen him play as a keyboard when he has to. For that, if they need a blaster, he's going to play it. But Emmet Payne on this Lex, I love seeing these changes in the meta. Lex, he got, it was a 24-second cooldown reduction on an ability that it doesn't do too much in the short term. I would say just swaps your target, but he's just able to get away with so much, move so fast, rotate around you, chase you down. I like seeing him, but I have a feeling we might not be seeing him on a map like Ice.
It's 8-0, and you asked for a change of pace, something like an Ice Mines, and we got exactly that here, Kresnik. This should, in theory, slow the pace down, but I think we've seen over these last couple of months of Paladins that Ice Mines has gotten a little bit more, I don't know, maybe figured out is the right word for it. I feel like teams have found a way to still find their aggro on this map.
Yeah, teams have figured out a little bit more about, I think, how to actually cap it, and it depends on the backlines, I think, that are sitting up there. If you manage to keep them away from a sniper, or if you get an early pick on a backline when they try to push forward too early, as long as you don't have them sitting in that free fire spawn door, you can get it in for sure. Pickled Pepper, though, speaking of backlines, they get rid of the Shah again. They want to be able to play their flankers and not have this kind of free counter in that 1300 damage cripple arrow.
They're going to take that out alongside the Terminus, who obviously gets some increased value here on Ice Mines with that Reanimate. And I like this adjustment from Flashpoint, taking the Vivian and the Victor off the table this time. And I assume Skeppy will still be able to play pretty well on whatever he ends up taking, but at least make him show you, I think, for some mental comfort at some point. At least make him prove it.
Yeah, and he's going to have to with them both taken out, and maybe it'll just be Genospore. Maybe he just wants to keep a full auto hit scan, but Pocket Pick picked up for them, getting this damage boost. It pairs well with the Torvald if they want it, and Flashpoint take away this central tank that if they try to play a dive style, the Inara will just free cap in the back and force Pickled Pepper to make a decision that they might not want to have to make.
And I feel like this is Flashpoint making every adjustment possible to the map that we're on here with Ice Mine. That's a different map that we're on here now, to banning away the Victor, the Vivian, to taking that Inara away from Wonderful, who's gotten to play it every game so far, and now getting this Corvus in response to the Genos. So now those two healers kind of separated to their teams. I think this is the best Flashpoint have looked so far throughout these first two picks.
Yeah, Inara Corvus, great sustain pick, also great to pair with any flankers as well. But Pickled Pepper, they want to match that sustain, so they get this Grover that brings the CC, it brings the extra healing, it has some poke as well if you keep your distance from it. But they pair it with a kind of aggressive damage dealer, not going to benefit as much from the Grover, but if you get that Yomi, pair that with the damage boost from Genos, he's going to be heavy swinging for 977. That's going to be hard. If you want a death ball, if they end up with a death ball comp, that Yomi is going to tear them apart.
Whoa. Tiberius ends up getting locked in here for Flashpoint. I think this makes some sense. We see Tiberius get a ton of value on Ice Mines with all these areas where he's able to get a ton of extra bounce damage in there. But how are you feeling about how Tiberius looks right now?
I think he's great on Ice Mines. You can get a lot of bounces around corners and catch people inside windows. He's also pretty solid into the aggressive play. The Heavy Blade slows for an ungodly amount. It's 50% for about 4 seconds, and you can reset it if you're running Predatory Instinct. So if they want to push, they have to deal with walking through mud for, on average, like 6 or 7 seconds. Pair that with a BK, they have a lot of control in these choke points, but Pickled Pepper want to get their own level of control. Dredge, taken by them, lots of blast damage. You can do a lot of indirect damage to that Tiberius and Bomb King if they sit there, but they're a little light on poke. It's just the Grover, which doesn't do a ton, and the Xin heavy swing. Flashpoint might just be able to play their distance and win on the back of this Tiberius alone.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if they could. I mean, even maybe Bomb King in the right spots could find some decent damage from an area that Pickled Pepper might have a hard time trying to match. Now this pip comes in, a little bit of extra healing, and obviously this Evil Mojo provides a ton of control. If they need to try and get through this Fernando in a hurry, then I don't know what's much better than that.
Yeah, I think the Pip, this is a great time for it. Normally, right now, you'd be worried about it if you see a Pip get locked in when all the hit scans going on, but look on the other side. Genos, not going to make too much of a difference into this Pip. Great ultimate, great support healing, another AoE slow so that if Pickled Pepper want to get aggressive again, they're going to have to wade through some mud.
This is going to be difficult here for Pickled Pepper. Ice Mine slows the pace down enough as it is, but now when you add in Flashpoint, have drafted quite a bit of control that I think will be in for a very interesting map 3 here. Remember Flashpoint, the one with their backs against the walls. They have to show us that these adjustments, the Vivian, the Victor taken away, the Inara taken away, are going to be enough for them to at least look toe-to-toe here up against Pickled Pepper, who have been 8-0 up until this point.
Yeah, I think having this extra bit of sustain could help significantly, and also just having a good Ice Mines draft in general, but I really hope they stick with Hurl. I was saying that they had no poke at first, because a lot of dredges kind of just stick with Scuttle on this map, and choose to not have an infinite Leon presence whenever they want, but he will be sticking with it. He'll have the ability to cleave through their team if they try to sit on top of each other, heal himself for quite a bit, and get some good zone. Leaning a little more towards Pickled Pepper now, but I feel like the ultimates that come in from Flashpoint, if Pepper don't get the answers in time, if the Immortal from the Nando isn't huge when they come in, they might not be able to stop it.
Vex already showing, I think, some of the strength here of Tiberius, as he is the one that maintains control of this sort of high ground positioning, if you want to call it that, here on Ice Mines. The Inara out onto the point for Flashpoint this time, the same way Wonderful was doing it for Pickled Pepper, as a lot of Pickled Pepper don't seem to be able to move forward, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this, Krez, where Vex is just keeping them locked down.
They just didn't have a way to get into him. I mean, maybe they send the Xin in, but they have so much control on the other sides, they can't really do it. I'm just going to keep running forward. These double blasters. I'm going to walk through and Vex 30 on the Tiberius, something I never thought I'd say, but he's opening up so much room for Flashpoint.
Yeah, it was technically still in the mid-fight, if you want to call it that. Flashpoint get the capture, but they're already pushed forward into an aggressive offense to allow this payroll to roll forward and deny Pickled Pepper control of what is normally a pretty advantageous position for the defense. Not bad here at all for Flashpoint. A lot of the times we talk about, how does your offense look on the back of that mid-fight win, and right now for Flashpoint it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think they smartly back up. They know they didn't have that angle, so wait for something to break through. I'd love to see a combo maybe, pair something with Blade Dance, but this Tiberius ult, this Blade Dance, what are they going to get? It's double support on the other side. The blade attacks don't cauterize unless he's able to catch him out with something else. He can't really do anything with it. And there he goes. Immediately killed before he can even touch the ground.
We were wondering how much value you'd be able to get out of him, and I guess Skeppy gave us our answer. Not a whole lot, exactly. Pickled Pepper do a great job stuffing that one and holding them here at this next checkpoint. I might have gotten a bit ahead of myself lauding this offense on the back of the mid win for Flashpoint, as they have gotten significantly stalled. And I think we're seeing a lot more dredge value in this exact point where he's able to keep them zoned out. Now Fish Echo falls before they can even get around the corner. Lynn's Sanity as well.
When everyone's clumped up, you're going to get so much out of these harpoons and these big axes, too, from the Grover. You can aim them above obstacles. The hitbox is just big enough to sometimes catch people that are hiding behind it. Pickled Pepper, though, they want more. They want to find something on this defense. Bomb King alone won't be able to slow them down, and unfortunate by Fish thinking he could take that 1v2, so the stagger continues, but at the very least, no one else on Flashpoint is really contesting this. They have Skeppy looking for a potential back cap just in case, also able to warp forward whenever he wants, but they're all turning around to look at Skeppy warping in, and Wonderful's left completely alone behind a tree and goes down to that.
And that's going to hurt a lot, really, if you're Pickled Pepper losing Wonderful in that spot. That's going to allow Flashpoint to start stepping a little bit further forward when perhaps that could have been held a little bit longer by Pickled Pepper. Another one coming out is this time it's Feel that gets dropped, and Vex continually showing the strength of this Tiberius even from long range, especially from long range, as Skeppy gets the return kill on the Fish Echo. 15 seconds left on Ice Mines. It's going to be hard to get this cap done in OT, so it might just be a question of how much Pickled Pepper can get out of Flashpoint here in this defense.
I really wish Flashpoint had gone any other direction on that push, because they literally just stacked 5 people into a dredge that was firing left clicks as often as he wanted. They didn't need to bleed that many people, but look at this. They're actually just going to give it up completely. They want to hold on to their else. They don't want to even feel tempted to press E. So they're just going to give that to Pickled Pepper. They think their ultimates are going to be strong enough, and honestly, they might be right. Evil Mojo, so good at deleting people if they can catch him when the Nando doesn't have Immortal. Blade Dance with setup can work. They just have to find a way to get that setup initially. Glad we got to see that replay of the Blade Dance attempt. Now Vex knows better and will only use it for either mobility or to follow up on maybe a seismic crash.
But this has been a much better fight from Flashpoint here so far, hasn't it? I mean, it has to be a much better improvement because they hadn't scored yet until now. So they did get that first mid-fight win, and now they need to be able to find a way to chain that together. As you said, when they come into this fight with 10 ultimates available, I mean, I think that's probably got to favor Flashpoint.
Yeah, I think they have the more impactful ultimates, but it is really a lot on Wonderful and Skeppy. They both have great counter engagement ultimates. You can catch the Bomb King in a way where he can't evade the Kraken. You can just Immortal and counter anything if you have to be ready for it to be coming in. Looks like they're going to start with the Entropic Breach with the time and space. Vex gets hit, but they're not looking at him at pain, and he walks into windows.
He needed to do this. This was huge. Vex was the problem last time in terms of this mid-fight, and Emit Payne gets back there to make the play they needed. We were asking who unseats that Tiberius. Well, the answer is Emit. Great work to be able to get them onto this midpoint, but now they have a fight finally just on even terms. Whirlwind used to sort of get them back out here into the open as the Bomb King, King Bomb rather, makes its way out. Fernando responds though with an ultimate of his own. Void Grip onto the Inara to try and find some grabs. It's the Tiberius that gets caught by Emit twice in a row. He has locked down Vex and taken this Tiberius out of the fight. It's a double as he gets to T-Mac.
And they have to disengage. I was actually worried that I thought they baited out the Immortal with the King Bomb so they'd have an Evil Mojo for it at the end, but Fish is holding on to that with dear life. He doesn't want to use it. They're going to have it for a retake. They're just capping. Who are they going to ult to Zin? He might be able to counter it. They need to move now or find a good target.
Well, they're sending in the Inara here first. There's that Evil Mojo you were asking for. Legacy does end up falling, but they weren't able to get the Fernando and all that. But I think it already did its work. It has pushed Pickled Pepper off of that midpoint. It's isolated Wonderful, and he's fallen as well. Patience with that Evil Mojo ultimate, but I think it might have paid off.
Yeah, and only Emit Payne, it looks like, left alive on this Zin. He uses the ability to leave, so he's definitely not going to be back into contest. Having a world to escape as well. And Flashpoint, another point for them. Even with an interesting use of the ult, I feel like they held on to them a little long. They managed to have him exactly when they need to. Coming around the corner, though, they're going to have to walk into this dredge. They're already taking a lot of damage. They're relying on this Corvus, and Pip, if he can look to heal a little bit more, to keep their whole team in check.
Flashpoint stalled here last time, if you all will remember in chat that they barely got the payload beyond this point. Looks like things are going to look a lot better here as T-Mac able to find essentially this opening pick onto Emit, make it a doubles, he gets Legacy Vex, able to find Feel as well, so they will get this payload rumbling right on down with a 4-for-1 with Wonderful falling as well. Maybe another one as Skeppy low 2, much better offense this time around for Flashpoint.
Interesting Kraken by Skeppy at the very last second. It just hits Doe for about half his health, sends him flying back. Honestly, all that did was give Jalen more ult charge. It just let him heal up, get a little bit of ult, and maybe make this hold a little bit harder for them right now. Time and space, it catches Vex, but he lives. He has just enough health to go through it and gets pocketed by the Corvus to keep fighting.
That is huge. They really would have liked it. That ultimate could have taken care of Vex right away, but somehow he's able to wiggle and worm his way out of there. But still, we have seen pushes stall on this last choke point plenty of times before here, Kresnik. So if you're Pickled Pepper with a couple of ultimates in the back pocket, maybe you feel confident, but Vex gets the kill onto Emit. Now they come storming through, even bringing the Bomb King as well. But some damage from the backline is stopping this push from being as strong as it could have been. The BK has moved his way out, but takes too much damage. Fish Echo takes care of Wonderful in the payload, continuing to roll. Nothing that Feel could do by himself, and Flashpoint able to find the conversion.
And they spent a lot for that on both sides, actually. Immortal, Whirlwind, both used with Entropic Breach, Evil Mojo, and Seismic Crash coming out for Flashpoint. But the best counter to what's remaining, the King Bomb and the Blade Dance, but again, double healer makes that so hard to actually utilize properly. The best counter's gone. They spent that Immortal to try to hold it. Now this King Bomb can just go in. He'll get pocketed by Jalen the whole way through. They can just immediately catch and isolate someone, burn down Wonderful through his shield. This is looking good for Flashpoint. Ult-wise, Fish will charge that pretty quickly. I think Pickled Pepper, if they find an early pick with some dredge damage, maybe sink a left click and a harpoon so they don't see it coming, they could play off of that. But again, this map is all about ultimates, and I think Flashpoint have the resources left to just take it away.
T-Mac is the one to sort of keep your eye on here as Vex makes it to a strong position. This time he's keeping his eye out for that Xin making a rotation over. Certainly did, but Vex is a little bit more wary for it this time around. Has some backup as well with this pip here, and that is going to force that member back. The mid-fight continues just as strong, but Emit's able to get up and lock down Fish Echo. T-Mac gets the kill onto Skeppy there with the ultimate, and Vex is into the back line, but ends up getting locked down. Legacy had the kill, so this might have slightly favored Pickled Pepper, but still, that Anora standing strong on the point.
I don't know what Vex was doing at the very end. I mean, he was doing the damage that he needed to, but he could have done the right click and cancel on the roof, but he kept doing the left click, staying vulnerable the whole time. Look at this though, T-Mac, he thinks they can keep going. He makes a little bit of room, but actually just enough to distract for Fish to follow up on Legacy, and no one on Pickled Pepper is willing to touch the point. Maybe they're just so used to having an Anora, they're just ignoring it and letting Flashpoint sit pretty on this 45%.
You know, it's interesting. They got rid of Wonderful early on. I think that was why Flashpoint felt they could keep pushing, but Emit gets this kill into Fish Echo. Skeppy has moved up and found a way to control this area outside of Barn, but the Anora is a little bit too strong for that, stepping forward, and Vex got the return frag onto Emit. 70% now for Pickled Pepper as they have gotten Wonderful back out and established, but there's the Seismic Crash, but it's answered back by the Whirlwind. Good work from the Grover being ready on that ultimate, 78%, but Dosips is pushing back Wonderful, regaining control. So this might be back in control of Flashpoint.
That Entropic Breach by Jalen was perfect to split them, but this Nando low has to move back in, and I think Skeppy might be getting isolated here too. Not a lot of time left, and Doe wants this pick.
That's great work from him to step up and take care of Skeppy. T-Mac gets a kill as well, so does Vex, and these mid-fights have been all Flashpoint so far. That's the big difference maker here, is this Anara. Flashpoint able to get Ice Mines and bring this set back to a 2-1. And for me, I was worried about how different Skeppy and the rest of the backline would look, but I think Wonderful was the one who looked a lot worse without the Anara.
Yeah, I think on that Nando, he was getting bullied out pretty hard by the DPS on their side. I think it's kind of hard into a Tiberius, though, because Nando, you put up your shield, suddenly
Agreed.
You get heavy bladed, they pull it back, you're moving so slow. He's not running any dire need, so that shield slow combines with the heavy blade slow, and you can't really make a lot of room, and he needed that Immortal in those last fights, ended up using it to potentially hold the point, and that's most of Nando's utility on Ice Mines just out the window.
An impressive bounce back, though, from Flashpoint. They really needed it, too. I mean, obviously, aside from the 2-0 where they literally have to win, I got to think for the mental, that's going to help them. Now that they know that there's a couple of key pieces they can take away from this Pickled Pepper team and make him look at least a little bit more mortal, because the 8-0 had to have been weighing on their minds, and Vex was a big part of it on this Tiberius, man. The long-range bounce damage was too tough for Pickled Pepper to answer.
Yeah, Tiberius on this map is fantastic, being able to be so mobile, use Blade Dance. You can cross basically the entire map in an instant. We've seen Tiberiuses that are forward zoning in the tunnel go all the way back to their spawn to deny backcaps. And there again, that heavy blade. Big hitbox, big slow. You can get a lot out of it, and you could just see how hard Vex was bullying Wonderful, I think, all game.
He was. I think you were so right to highlight. I mean, I'm highlighting the Tiberius, but it's the Tiberius into the Fernando in particular that made problems for him. Normally, you know, the cooldown on the shield, having that up more often, is part of what made Fernando so strong, but this Tiberius is able to get right past it. But is that going to be the same case here on Stone Keep? This feels a little bit more to me like an area perhaps where Pickled Pepper can work. If they can get this Inara back, have her on that point, and then maybe win some of them keep fights, then they're right back in it.
And their first pick, too, so Vivian, Victor, and Inara can't all be denied by Flashpoint unless, you know, they ban one away from themselves if they decide to go that route, but I have a feeling they're not going to. The respect ban. Vex is Tiberius. We don't want to see that anymore, even on Stone Keep. Take that away from them, and Flashpoint respond with the respect of their own. Skeppy's Victor, too much for us to handle on a map where it's been good even when Victor was bad in the meta, so get rid of it, force Pickled Pepper to ban out a Bomb King, and looks like Inara could be on the table for Pickled Pepper.
I wouldn't be surprised if they lock it, but I just love the way that this has changed. This started off with, hey, let's get rid of these backline supports and healers and maybe ban some of the tanks, and now it's just like, no, we can't deal with these damage dealers. Get the Victors, the Vivians, the BKs, and the Tiberius is out of here, and Pickled Pepper go with the Genos instead. I mean, I'd be very surprised if Flashpoint don't grab the Inara.
Corvus.
Yeah, especially paired with the Corvus. That's how they started their draft at Ice Mines, and it's not bad on any map. I mean, pair Corvus with an Inara, he can pocket her. If you heal someone with a mark, you get a 1-second cooldown reduction on your heal. So in dire straits, you're just going to be pumping heals into that Inara. But Androxus instead, prioritize that hit scan flanker. Give that up to Pickled Pepper. But some people say that Genos and Inara don't really mix. I think they can. I think it's all about how good the Inara is, and Pickled Pepper seem to agree. Wonderful, performed so well on this Inara. Who needs a pocket heal? He'll win the trade on point with that extra damage, and he'll make you look silly while he does it.
Interesting. I mean, I'd have thought that maybe Pickled Pepper felt more comfortable picking the Fernando in a world where they didn't have to deal with Tiberius, and maybe that's why they were willing to wait a little bit longer picking this Inara. But on this kind of map, if we're going to leave Inara open this long, then they'll take it. And this also feels like the kind of map where Strix can do really well, especially when it comes to defending those payload pushes around that last corner. I mean, Strix can just sit up top and have a field day.
Yeah, and I think they need maybe an aggressive off-tank to deal with them. I'd love to see an Ashe here maybe to pressure into him with that Androxus. Even Rom, maybe not into the Genos, but Ashe specifically could be great for crossing that gap. But Makoa, what they go against instead, I don't know how I feel about Koa. I think now, this patch he's had some changes. Leviathan now a little bit stronger. You get resets on your cooldown when you use that ultimate. But, I don't know, it's going to be really hard into hit scan, and you know Pickled Pepper are going to want to play hit scan with their controller DPS. Strix and Lex are going to melt Makoa alive with his massive cranium. Ashe can cover so much more ground, but they just want the hook, and they're hoping that's going to be enough.
So now it's this Genos Grover. You provide that backline support and control between the Void Grip and the Axe. Then you add in the Strix and Lex to provide all that damage onto CC targets quite easily. And suddenly, I'm not even adding Seismic Crash in, by the way, if I'm talking about all this CC. Suddenly, this Pickled Pepper draft is making a lot of sense to me here, Kresnik. This is pretty scary to try and defeat on Stone Keep. But Flashpoint are going to try and match that Strix presence with this Kinessa.
I think all they can do is hope the Kinessa wins the duel. Maybe Makoa can get into the Strix, but if there's a Lex in the way, his health pool is literally going to just go away. And if he plays in half shell, Lex just dives it. I mean, Hook can be great if someone's playing with them, but this is still almost an insurmountable wall for this Makoa to climb, but a good Makoa with good hooks might be able to do it.
We don't see a whole lot of Makoa nowadays, but Flashpoint with their backs against the wall perhaps can show us the value of that pick. We'll be moving on to Stone Keep here for game number 4, and Pickled Pepper up until this point looked pretty dominant, right? The 8-0 to start, and then even on Ice Mines, at least taking it to high percentages on some of those mid-fights and being able to find one defense there. Here on to Stone Keep, which feels like a much more heads-up type battle to me. I feel like this might play to their strengths.
Yeah, for sure. I think with these scans, with Lex on Stone, we've seen work from Brazil in the past, but that was with Death Hastens. A different style of play, and Discovery is going to be what they run this time. Pickled Pepper, we know they like that, having that 50% lifesteal potential, which will make it even harder for this Makoa to win that trade when he's getting all of that lifesteal off of him. But Androxus will be the first target, and that wall hack with the Discovery will hurt them a lot. If Andro can't be sneaky, then they might have trouble finding the first pick, but I guess if no one helps Wonderful, they'll just immediately take that free pick. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I guess that's easy for the Kinessa into the Inara to find those shots. That means Flashpoint building up the percent first with really no one on Pickled Pepper to contest the actual point. And that is what this Kinessa was picked for, right? I mean, you thought it would be the dual Skeppy, but it can also just match Skeppy's value or maybe even get it first. Those snipes don't quite connect. The Inara has made her way around through the keep and should be able to contest, but Flashpoint already got a ton of percent.
And they're even going to get Wonderful back on, and look at this, they're all hiding, waiting for something, and Legacy, how does he just walks in and chips away T-Mac. How does T-Mac not see the Genos coming, and the rest of them, they just have to run away, save their cooldowns, but Pickled Pepper might have had enough cap time to deny this if they keep up this pressure.
If they can keep up the pressure, that's going to be the question, and Skeppy, I think, is going to be a big part of that. He's holding these angles. The Kinessa does a good job firing some shots and forcing him off the position. The Nando has the shield chipped away, but inside Church, they might be able to make a push. There is the flashbang used to buy some time. You could be a little bit more cavalier with that ultimate, and it does work to create them some space, but they have now contested mid. 93% for Pickled Pepper, and Feel has found T-Mac. That's the Kinessa removed again. That's huge, but Fish Echo gets the response. The Grover's taken out, but now Vex falls. As soon as he ends up dropping that shield, he falls. Legacy is there to take care of Dosips as well, and that should be enough, especially with the Makoa fall. Pickled Pepper win the mid-fight and already get the first cap.
It's got to be a struggle when you're playing T-Mac right now. All that Skeppy's doing is running away from the fight. He peeked, saw where T-Mac was, and then took an angle that T-Mac literally can't contest. So T-Mac rotates in, and he's just getting picked off by supports. I feel bad. Field drops to the point, just throws axes on him from the side. No one on his team helps. Genos chips him away from across the map. They have to find a way to stop these supports from just walking in and peeking, but no one on Flashpoint wants to fight Skeppy.
It's tough. I mean, it's hard for you to find these angles. And as you said, what's really being given for him here is that Skeppy finds another one this time, taking care of T-Mac. But what's really happening is that Skeppy is putting all this pressure on, forcing back the members of Flashpoint, and then whomever from Pickled Pepper will rotate over and clean up the kill, even if it's a Genos. They're happy for it to go that way. Emit gets the kill onto the Makoa, and now Skeppy can hold yet another one of these high ground angles to try and keep Flashpoint at bay.
They have to send the Nando at him too with the big shield, but look at this, they're actually stacking both tanks upper with 3. They might be able to keep moving card, but Wonderful gives it up to play under. They kind of just want to make this CC work, force them into Skeppy's line, and maybe catch an ultimate here.
This is Force Legacy back. The Andro comes through to keep an eye on this. Andro does get the kill, but they lose Makoa to make it work. And the Andro ends up falling, so a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Pickled Pepper. Not quite worth it if all they got for it was Legacy. Now stepping forward is Emit, pumps the damage into Jalen. No hope for him to survive. The Kinessa just barely makes it out of there, but he flicks back, takes care of Dosips. The double kill opens up the site, and that means Pickled Pepper gets the conversion. That was clean.
I want you guys to take a look at Makoa's health bar right now. He dropped his shield for about a second. That's why you don't want to play Makoa into a team like this. I mean, Emit Payne and Skeppy are 9-0-2 just destroying on these damage charts. 9-0-2! This Lex, he is following up on everything that the rest of the team is doing. Skeppy's putting in the damage, and Emit Payne is just on the flank every single time. He's holding there on the side, uses all that speed from his dash and just base in his kit. About 40% movement speed to chase you down every time he uses that combat slide. I don't know how Flashpoint are going to react. They don't have a great CC for it. It's basically saying, Fish, hit the hook. If you don't, we lose. And they need to have another answer than that when they have this draft. You know Pickled Pepper are going to pick something like this. Maybe they ban the Genos. I know they gave up the Genos too. I don't know. It's so hard for them, but again, it's still a skill matchup if Fish can connect some hooks.
It's a full keep fight here this time. Fernando drops the ultimate to make sure he does not fall to Skeppy in the stealth, hiding in the back corner. Somehow, that ends up working. Legacy gets the double kill off the ultimate. Amit and Skeppy are right there to follow up as Fish Echo and Vex fall, and suddenly, it's just the Kinessa standing. Pickled Pepper in the keep fight, find the full stack double kill ultimate from Genos, and now Flashpoint are vibing.
I mean, Skeppy just no-scopes Fish Echo point blank twice in a row. That's brutal. Fish right next to him, looking for him so much, but stealth up. They're finally trying to re-engage, but T-Mac gets flashed immediately.
Okay.
That's one of the best flashbangs I've ever seen.
Emit is able to find the double. Skeppy gets the other one, and this Lex is proving to be a big thorn in Flashpoint's side. The dash to try and get around the corner. The Andro almost comes out on top with a nice headshot, but Emit is the better. The Makoa, the second the shield goes down. Stop me if you heard that one before. Ends up falling in OT. Pickled Pepper get the 3-0, and now, if they can find this conversion, that Flashpoint will have lost 3 4-0 maps.
I was just listening to some audio cues there, and the walls from Discovery so much. You can just see your target through walls. He's getting 138 damage per shot. He's on an annihilation on this side, and he wants more.
This Lex pick is looking a lot stronger here, isn't it? Or maybe that's just Emit making it look this good, but Flashpoint do not have an answer. The payload's already halfway to its eventual target, and they just don't have a way to stop him. A 22 streak for Emit right now.
How do you stop someone that's doing this? I don't know. Again, it's all
Me
about
neither.
the hooks. But how does Fish get a hook when every time he drops his shield to hook him, he gets chunked for 2,000 of his 4,500 HP? There it is, finally on the side, and that actually will give Fish. It gives Fish another whole ult because of the kill streak they were on. But if Flashpoint want to hold this, they have to move forward and they have to find some more.
But Skeppy was the other part of this problem, and he's still putting out decent damage. Up into the air goes Vex, though. He's going to drop the Accursed Arm to try and keep them pushed back. But Pickled Pepper don't step out to it. They've kept everyone else alive so far. Fish Echo knows he's got Skeppy dead to rights, gets up to him, gets the kill, and might even cost him his life, but it's well worth it as they finally unseat that duo in the backline, Skeppy and also the Lex. But there's still plenty of time for Pickled Pepper to re-siege.
And Fish Echo making a lot of room on this Makoa now. I guess the pick might be paying off, but again, hit scans are your worst enemy. He has to leave immediately once he sees Skeppy because he can't get that healing back in time. They have this double healer, so their sustain can be good. If they want to push forward and just do this little war of attrition with the sniper, they can, but Jalen might be caught out. Finally, backs up. They're contesting on the side. I don't know how much longer they can do that.
Able to make it out of there just barely. And I think that the fear of being in Skeppy's sightline was just re-put back into them. Wonderful's back onto the actual payload, so this push certainly can still work. Stepping forward and using the wall to try and isolate the Fernando, but just barely able to slip his way back through there. Lex has recognized there's 2 members out. Void Grip has caught the Makoa, just barely able to survive is he, but Emit nearly got the kill on him as well. Skeppy falls though to Vex on the Andrew, who gets to him in the back line, but the Makoa tried to go to safety, but Emit was waiting, gets the kill, so it's 1 for 1.
No control on the right side. I think that's one of the biggest problems right now is they can just go there, whether it's Skeppy, whether it's Amit Payne, they're going to be poking them down so hard. And look at this Nando! 4-second shield, but he's still not getting it fast enough to live through all these hit scans.
Now, somehow no control might be an understatement. I mean, Emit's just chilling over there. He has set up a tent and chilling. No one can push him out of there. Skeppy's back now. He's got the double kill whirlwind used by the Grover, and that's allowing the team to push forward. And the Corvus has to come out and try and stop, but can't even get the ultimate off. It's a killing spree for Emit. He gets back behind the Fernando shield. The only hope right now is Dosips, but it's not enough. Pickled Pepper crush him with the Lex, and they're able to take it 4-0.
You know, that's an interaction I didn't think I was going to see in Paladins literally ever. I didn't think I was going to see a Lex executing a Corvus in ult DR. I don't know why. It just wasn't something that ever crossed to my mind, but that actually buys them a lot of time. That's 50% damage reduction on a Corvus, effectively a tank health pool. Now not contesting the cart, plus the Entropic Breach doesn't even come out. That's damage that they really needed if they wanted to hold it, and they just did not have it.
Unfortunately, couldn't get that ultimate off there at the tail end. 8 deaths there for Dosips. Fish Echo struggling on the Makoa as well, but Pickled Pepper, 19-2 from Emit, 12-2 from Skeppy. An excellent performance and wonderful on the Inara. How often is your point tank going with only 1 death per game? A great game from him as well. And it does end up being a really strong game for Pickled Pepper. I mean, 3 4-0s throughout this set for them when you consider how that very first map went. The second map right afterwards ends up going in their favor as well. On Ice Mines, things slowed down a bit. Flashpoint were able to find a little bit to go their way, but coming back to Stone Keep, getting the Inara back on their side, even without the Victor and Vivian, was enough for Pickled Pepper to get back into control.
Yeah, they were able to do exactly what they wanted, I think, by the end. I'm surprised they went for the Andro over it, but I guess, I mean, you see how good they're playing on this Lex. You know that they're going to be doing the same on the Andro, who's basically just flying Lex. But Emmett Payne utilizing that, the full extent of Lex's kit, I think, which we really haven't seen. Not seeing Death Hastens be able to rotate that mark to get that extra sustain. That's the reason he went on that long of a streak. He's just siphoning health off of them. Every time they want to kill him, he just absorbs all of that health right back in damage.
And North America continues to be impressive to me, just as a stacked region. Think about a team with as much talent on it as Flashpoint being 0-2 and 6 now at this point. I mean, I am sure they will improve from that standing throughout it. But now you have to worry about Pickled Pepper. I mean, tons of talent on that roster as well, so maybe not a surprise they're doing this well, but a 3-1 with 3 4-0s, I was not expecting it to look like that.
The top of every region in general is just looking so competitive. Pickled Pepper, this team being made just to some people who took a break, came back, and are still looking as strong as ever. I want to see them against Sanguine. I want to see them against every team in this region, honestly. They looked so good in relegations, and from what I'm hearing, they're looking just as good in scrims.
I want to see a team really take them to the limit, because we saw Flashpoint take away the Victor Vivian, and I think take them to that limit, take away the Inara and force them to show something else. But it still wasn't quite enough to push them all the way. I'm right there with you. I want to see Pickled Pepper up against the best of the best.
And they've already shown they can push the meta too. I mean, new changes on this patch, yeah, but Torvald really didn't get much of anything, and yet they still said, "Oh, by the way, he's sick," and none of you even know. And he's making these teams ban it, pick it against them they weren't seeing. I want to see him do that with other picks. I want to see how far they can push the boundaries of Radiant Stars, because it's the patch we are on for this whole phase. I want to see them experiment, do different things, play different healers, different tanks, and I think they're talented enough to be able to do it.
What it sounds like to me right now is you cannot afford to miss a single set of Paladins action, because something crazy that you didn't even know was strong might get brought out. That's going to do it here for us today, though. Another broadcast obviously going to be happening tomorrow. We will be there with you to bring you plenty more Paladins, so make sure you check back in for that. Until then, though, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
I can be a weapon.